Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Twilight Zone. And I'm saying that for a good reason. Now, I'm making this video after spending some time previously, actually last night, doing some tests on the radio here, videoing the whole thing, really getting nowhere. I was doing some scope work, and finally I was trying to figure out if the FM oscillator was operating. That'd be at 10.7 megahertz. I did a few things, quite unconvincing. So I decided, well, heck, something I haven't done here is I haven't tested the tube voltage just to make sure there's B plus on all the tubes. So I started doing that, and everything was fine. Finding B plus on the tubes. I was doing the FM ones here, actually this one and this one. And then I moved over to the oscillator. This is the oscillator here. And I could only find one pin with voltage on it, and that's not unusual. It depends on the kind of tube. So I wanted to make sure which pin it was. And I ended up in the Twilight Zone on this, and that's why I'm making this video this morning. I'm going to take you to the Twilight Zone, and maybe with your help I can figure out what the heck is going on here. So the place to start is on the schematic, and there's a good chance I'm just going to repeat the mistake I'm making. I'm assuming I'm making some kind of silly mistake here. So let's start with the schematic. Okay, there's the 6C4 right there. There it is, 6C4 oscillator. And I make out the pins here, pin 7, pin 4 and 3 on the heaters. Not sure that sure looks like pin 5 to me on the plate. You see a connection off there on the plate. In the course of spending time in the Twilight Zone last night, I actually looked this tube up actually I did it online, and verified that yes, this is proper, of course. Why would it be wrong? Pin 5 is the plate, and you can see it's connected here, and got this great big capacitor I'm a little suspicious of, so I'm quite interested in what's going on here. So the 6C4, back on the radio, is this tube. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convince myself that in fact that is the right one. I'm going to pull the tube out of it. Okay, that's the tube. I got it in my hand here. It just came out of that socket. This is how crazy I've gotten over this. There it is. I can see it there. Let's see if I can get it. Probably can't get it visible on the camera here, but clearly, 6C4. 6C4. Let me put that back in. I have to put the camera down to do that. So, sorry, you're going to go blind for a minute while I do this. Now, I got to this point with this radio last night, and I must have spent 15 minutes sitting quietly looking at the situation, trying to understand what it is that I'm doing wrong. I'll show you in a moment why I find this so curious as soon as I get the tube back in. We don't even need the radio on. Okay, so sorry about leaving you in the dark there. Now remember, pin 5 is the plate. So when I count these pins, please count with me. What am I doing wrong? Okay. Get a little better pointer here if I've got one. Well, we can use this. By my reckoning, pin 1, pin 2, pin 3, pin 4, pin 5 is not connected. There is no connection. There never has been a connection. Pin 5, pin 6, pin 7. Now, I thought over and over, I must be counting them backwards. Okay, well, if I'm not counting it backwards, and by the way, I looked at these other, this guy here, I can see the pin numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, I can see them on the base, so I know I'm counting it the right way, and I do get confused once in a while and count these guys backwards, but not normally. But if it is backwards, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this would be pin 5, and you'd see it'd be connected to this coil, and on right over to a pin on another tube. Okay, so when I take a look for that, I see off of pin 5, capacitor to ground, capacitor to a control, tone control, resistor, capacitor, I don't see any coil. Oh, looking at the wrong tube now, aren't I? Sorry about that. Okay, it's just from using the magnifier. Let's try it. It's almost the same thing though, eh? Pin 5, off we come. Capacitor, resistor, there's no coil. And look here, pin 3, right to a coil. Okay. Okay, you're coming into the twilight zone with me now. 1, 2, 3, there it is. That's pin 3, for sure. There's pin 4, grounded. Or is it really grounded? Maybe that's not really a grounding there. Comes around to this coil. I can't quite see what's going on in there. That looks like, oh, I'm in the wrong tube again. There, 4. Who knows where it's going. Okay, back to the point at hand. Pin number 5. Pin number 5 appears to be not connected to anything. And I was hoping today when I did this that the solution would jump out at me. I was looking at the wrong tube, or I'm counting the pins wrong, or something, anything to explain how can that possibly be that way. Now, could this radio have been defective right out of the factory and all this time it never worked? No. No, 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 no. So here's an interesting diagram that came with the radio there. Take a look at it without the magnifier. And this essentially follows the wiring and the location of all the parts quite nicely, actually. It's kind of handy. Okay, so we take a close look at Mr. 6C4. Here he is here. 6C4 oscillator. And if you follow this around, okay, so here's a pin here. Look, you see the alignment of the tube socket. See, this one's this way, this one's this way. It's actually like that in the radio. See, one's up and down, the other one's left and right, so to speak. So they're even showing you the pin arrangement. And here you can see off this first pin, 2 wires. There they are. A green wire in this resistor. Next pin open. Next pin open. Next pin has a wire on it, or something on it. Next pin has this connection here. Okay, next wire coming out this way and heading up towards these towards the capacitors. So here it is here, coming out, heading up towards the capacitors. Next pin is the one I'm concerned about. Next pin on here is nothing connected to it. You skip that pin and go to the next one, and you get these 2 wires with resistors on them. There they are. So even this diagram shows no connection to pin 5. Pin 5 being the plate for the 6C4. But the circuit diagram shows the plate connected. So what am I doing? Somebody come and rescue me. Because I'm in some kind of a box canyon here. I can't seem to get out. That was my night last night. I ended up so confounded about this. I didn't even bother posting any of the videos I shot. Not that they're terribly good videos, because everything I did didn't show anything of particular interest. So I'm going to post this guy, and hopefully somebody out there is going to say, Jim, you fool, don't you know, blah, 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 blah. Because I have the feeling, you know, my experience in life is when I run into these kinds of corners, there's usually just something I don't know, or something I haven't learned yet. And so I suspect that's what's going on here. So, somebody, anybody, help me out on this. Thanks. Talk to you later.